You might know Eddie Kendricks for his unforgettable falsetto, but what you don't know is just how chaotic his love life really was. Behind the smooth voice was a trail of messy relationships, and some of the wildest involved women he worked with. Yes, even members of the Supremes. Ever heard of the Primettes? That's where things start getting complicated. From secret hookups and jealous blow-ups to shocking betrayals and love triangles that overlapped with his own marriage, Eddie's offstage life was pure drama. So, did he really date Diana Ross? Who was he married to? And what went wrong? Let's dive into the 8 celebs Eddie Kendricks had messy affairs with. You're not ready for this ride. In a music industry filled with talent, few ever reached the heights that Eddie Kendricks did. With a falsetto so smooth and distinctive, he carved out a legacy that still has many calling him the greatest falsetto singer of all time. For those unfamiliar with his name, a quick look at his impact reveals the scope of his greatness. In the 1960s and 70s, only a select few could rival him vocally, even on their best days. His voice wasn't just memorable, it was transformational. A true gem of the music world, Eddie didn't just perform. He moved people. Naturally, that kind of talent came with its perks: fame, fortune, and a lifestyle most could only dream of. But despite the rewards, his journey was anything but smooth. Even after reaching the top, the challenges didn't disappear. They simply evolved. Kendricks's life was often marked by personal turmoil. From a string of romantic entanglements to drawn-out legal battles over custody rights, he navigated a world where fame came at a steep emotional cost. It was a life that, while enviable in many ways, carried a complexity that only those closest to him truly understood. Today, in an era where artists can rise to stardom overnight with the help of streaming platforms and viral moments, many believe the path is easier. But Eddie came up in a time when talent had to be undeniable to even get noticed, when securing a record deal meant proving you were exceptional. While living in the Tuxedo Junction neighborhood of Ensley, Eddie Kendricks crossed paths with a fellow young singer named Paul Williams. The two met in their church choir, where a shared love of music sparked a friendship that would soon evolve into something much bigger. By the mid-1950s, they were performing secular music around Birmingham, Alabama, planting the seeds for what would become a legendary journey. Along with their friends Kel Osborne and Jerome Avett, they formed a group called the Cavaliers. In 1957, chasing bigger opportunities, they relocated to Cleveland. Under the guidance of manager Milton Jenkins, they soon found themselves heading to Detroit, a city that would change everything for them. It was there that the Cavaliers became the Primes, unknowingly stepping into the heart of the Motown era. What lay ahead was more than they could have imagined: fame, success, and a world full of opportunity, but also one filled with pressure and personal pitfalls. They say success can be addictive, and Eddie Kendricks' life is proof of that. Fame opened doors to luxury, status, and adoration, but it also came with distractions and excess. Many believe that while it gave him everything, it may have also contributed to his undoing. In the world of entertainment, Eddie's name is met with reverence. He's widely regarded as a pioneer, a foundational figure in modern R&B. As one of the original faces of the Temptations, he helped shape a sound and image that defined a generation. With that came endless opportunities, and temptations he often didn't resist. Some of those temptations led to chaos, especially when it came to romance. And perhaps the most surprising name tied to his list of entanglements? None other than Diana Ross. Yes, that Diana Ross. Among all of Eddie Kendricks' rumored relationships, his connection with Diana Ross is perhaps the most talked about. The speculation lingered for years, largely because the lines between professional collaboration and personal chemistry were so often blurred. They were frequently seen together, on stage, in the studio, at public events, making it difficult to tell where the music ended and something more intimate might have begun. Eddie's group, the Temptations, and Diana's group, the Supremes, were considered the crown jewels of the Motown dynasty. Both groups were originally formed in 1959 in Detroit under the names The Primes and The Primettes. When they signed with Motown in 1961, they adopted the names that would eventually become iconic. Under the keen eye of Motown founder Berry Gordy, who had a natural instinct for promotion and spectacle, it was inevitable that the two groups would eventually join forces. That moment came in 1968, when Diana Ross and the Supremes officially teamed up with the Temptations. Their collaborative album Together was released in 1969, and the pairing sent fans and the media into a frenzy, not just because of the music, but because of the whispers surrounding Ross and Kendricks. The idea to pair the groups had been building since their joint performance on The Ed Sullivan Show in late 1967, where they wowed audiences with a medley of each other's hits. By spring 1968, they were recording together regularly, and that's when the rumors really took off. While their public relationship was framed as strictly professional, behind the scenes, things were more complicated. Whispers of private meetings outside rehearsals began circulating. Then, in a twist that caught many off guard, insiders close to both stars later revealed that Eddie and Diana had actually started dating before they were ever paired together as Motown's power duo. According to insiders close to both stars, Eddie Kendricks and Diana Ross continued an on-and-off relationship for years, right up until the day Eddie unexpectedly married his first wife. But even that wasn't enough to bring things to a clean end. Apparently, Diana Ross wasn't ready to let him go. Reports suggest that she continued to pursue Eddie even after his marriage. And in one particularly dramatic account, insiders claim Diana once tried to force her way into the couple's home in an attempt to reach him. When she couldn't get in, she allegedly smashed one of their windows, a shocking move that revealed just how intense her feelings for Eddie truly were. Though no one can say for certain if the romance ever resumed after that, one thing is clear: the connection between them didn't completely fade. The two remained friends, and more than that, Eddie continued to support Diana's career long after their romantic chapter closed. He encouraged her, championed her talent, and even performed alongside her on multiple occasions. While their relationship may now seem like an open secret, Diana wasn't the only member of the Supremes linked to Eddie Kendricks. Before Diana became the lead singer, that role belonged to Mary Wilson, and like Diana, Mary also had a lesser-known romantic involvement with Eddie. Though the details of their relationship remain vague and largely undocumented, it's believed they were briefly involved during the time their professional lives overlapped. So when it comes to Mary's well-documented tension with Diana Ross, some believe it went beyond musical rivalry. Many have speculated that Wilson's resentment wasn't just about being replaced. It may have also stemmed from their shared history with Eddie Kendricks. According to reports, Wilson hinted at a brief romantic relationship with Kendricks in her second book, Someday We'll Be Together. The details were vague, with no specific dates and no confirmed insider accounts, which has left the true nature and timeline of their relationship shrouded in mystery to this day. Still, even after their romance faded, Mary and Eddie maintained a respectful professional bond. They continued to support each other's work for years, right up until Eddie's death. And even then, Mary continued to honor his legacy and remain connected to his projects, showing just how deep their mutual respect ran. As for the woman who ultimately became Mrs. Kendricks, her name was Patricia Edwards. She entered Eddie's life at a pivotal time, right as he was preparing to leave the Temptations and embark on a solo career. Patricia brought the kind of emotional grounding Eddie desperately needed in that moment of transition, and it wasn't long before he asked her to marry him. Eddie's love for Patricia was undeniable. He expressed it in the way he knew best, through music. He poured his heart into songs like Intimate Friends and Just Memories, using his signature falsetto to communicate what words alone couldn't. Their marriage also brought a new chapter to Eddie's life: fatherhood. Together they had a son, adding a layer of personal joy and responsibility to his already complex life. For a while, it seemed Patricia was the calm Eddie had been searching for amid the chaos of fame and past heartbreaks. But like many relationships touched by fame, Eddie Kendricks and Patricia's marriage wasn't without its challenges. Being a prominent figure in the music industry during the 1970s came with constant temptations, and for Eddie, resisting them wasn't his strong suit. According to those close to the couple, his infidelity became so frequent that Patricia eventually gave up on trying to hold the relationship together. On top of that, they struggled with long stretches of time apart, as Eddie's career often kept him on the road or in the studio. After nearly a decade of marriage, the couple divorced in 1975. The split wasn't just emotional, it was financially costly. Eddie lost his home and a significant portion of his wealth in the settlement. But if anyone thought that heartbreak might make him swear off romance for good, they were mistaken. For Eddie Kendricks, love, and all the messiness that came with it, was far from over. Given that Eddie Kendricks was once married, it might seem unusual to suggest he shared a deeper connection with someone else. But among the many relationships in his life, one stood out in a unique way: his bond with Martha Reeves. Unlike the fleeting flings and industry acquaintances that often filled the spaces around him, Martha was different. She and Eddie weren't just colleagues, they were close friends who found real emotional ground between them. Much like how the Supremes shared the spotlight with the Temptations, Martha and the Vandellas were another powerhouse girl group under the Motown umbrella. In the whirlwind of studio sessions and Motown tours, Eddie and Martha naturally crossed paths again and again. Over time, those encounters turned into something more personal. Their romance, though largely kept out of the public eye, was said to be heartfelt and genuine. Insiders believed they were deeply in love. But like many relationships forged in the high-speed world of show business, it was ultimately tested by the demands of their careers. Constant travel, packed schedules, and little time for personal connection slowly chipped away at what they had. In the end, their relationship couldn't survive the strain, but what they shared left a mark that went deeper than most. Among the many women who played a role in Eddie Kendricks' personal life, Darlene Woods held a particularly significant place. While Eddie was reportedly infatuated with several of his romantic partners over the years, those who knew him say his connection with Woods was on a different level. One sign of that deeper bond: she became the mother of his youngest son, Paul. Still, despite the emotional depth of their relationship, it followed the same trajectory as many of Eddie's others: intense, passionate, and ultimately unsustainable. Like clockwork, things unraveled. At that point, the pattern in Eddie's love life had become hard to ignore. But the story didn't stop there. Things got even messier when Eddie got involved with another Darlene, this time the powerhouse vocalist Darlene Love. If there was one constant in Eddie Kendricks' personal life, it was his reputation as a ladies' man. Charismatic, smooth, and seemingly untouchable, he had a way of weaving in and out of relationships, and always walking away unscathed. Darlene Love, though not known for chart-topping solo hits, was a force in the music world. As a founding member of the Blossoms in 1957, she worked on numerous recording sessions and served as a resident singer on the television show Shindig. She also recorded frequently with the Temptations, including sessions directly involving Kendricks. Sources claim that Eddie used his usual charm, presenting himself as the sweet and harmless type, an act that had worked on many women before her. But things took a bizarre turn one night at a hotel. According to insiders, Eddie entered Love's room before she arrived. When she finally walked in, she found him waiting, on her bed. The surprise startled her so much that she reportedly screamed and bolted from the room. Moments later, Eddie was seen running out, completely naked. It wasn't exactly the image one would expect from a global music icon, but it fit the pattern Eddie had become known for: charming, reckless, and tangled in situations that left others shaking their heads. Some might call it messy. Others? Classic Kendricks. Eddie Kendricks may have had his fair share of complicated relationships, but according to some whispers in the industry, things took a more fortunate turn when Aretha Franklin entered the picture. In the early days, while Eddie and the Temptations were still carving out their place in the music scene, Aretha was already reigning supreme as the undisputed queen of soul. As the story goes, she admired their music, and especially their voices. So much so that she reportedly invited the group to her home. Officially, it was framed as a professional meeting. But insiders have long suggested there may have been more to it, especially when it came to her interest in Eddie. Some believe the invitation wasn't just about music, but also about indulging a more personal curiosity. Considering everything we know about Eddie Kendricks, his charm, his pattern of romantic entanglements, it wouldn't be hard to believe he was the one Aretha had her eye on. And it certainly wouldn't be surprising if he welcomed the attention. What exactly happened behind closed doors remains unclear. The rumors have persisted for decades, but the details are thin, and neither party ever confirmed anything publicly. Still, those close to the Motown world say it's more likely than not that something did happen between them. While Eddie Kendricks became well known for his complicated history with women, some stories suggest his romantic life may have gone even deeper than anyone expected, crossing boundaries that were rarely talked about at the time. One of the most persistent and controversial rumors links Kendricks to his longtime friend and fellow Temptation, David Ruffin. The two men shared more than just the spotlight. As the original lead voices of the Temptations, Eddie's soaring falsetto and David's gritty edge defined the group's legendary sound. They performed together for years, and even after leaving the group, they reunited for shows, one of the most memorable being their appearance at Constitution Hall, where they performed solo sets and later brought the house down with a medley of Temptations classics. Their chemistry on stage was electric, and some say that bond may have extended off stage too. According to Deliver Us from Temptation, a book by Tony Turner, who once worked closely with the group, Eddie and David may have had a romantic relationship behind the scenes. Turner's claims have been met with skepticism. He's not considered the most reliable source. But given the patterns in Eddie's personal life, the story hasn't been easy to dismiss entirely, especially considering how close the two men were for decades. Even now, with all the rumors and revelations, fans continue to be drawn to Eddie Kendricks, his charm, his style, and most of all, that unmistakable voice. As one admirer once wrote, "Eddie was fine. I'm not surprised he was slinging tail left and right. I would have definitely been one of those girls trying to get a piece of Eddie." People may be fascinated by his looks and his love life, but it's the music that keeps his legacy alive. And on that, everyone can agree. Eddie Kendricks left something timeless behind. Why did Eddie Kendricks leave the Temptations? Eddie Kendricks made the difficult decision to leave the Temptations after years of growing tension within the group. Over time, personal and creative differences caused a rift between Kendricks and some of his longtime bandmates, particularly Melvin Franklin and Otis Williams. The harmony that once defined them musically no longer existed behind the scenes. Feeling increasingly isolated and frustrated, Eddie eventually realized it was time to move on. Were Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin friends? As Kendricks distanced himself from the group, one unexpected silver lining emerged. He rekindled his close friendship with former lead singer David Ruffin, who had already departed from the Temptations. The two shared a deep bond from their early days, and many believe that Ruffin played a pivotal role in encouraging Eddie to leave the group and pursue his own path. Their friendship not only endured but also flourished after both men stepped away from the spotlight of Motown's most iconic lineup. Eddie Kendricks passed away after a courageous battle with lung cancer. His journey with the illness began quietly in 1981, when doctors discovered a small spot, described as a pin drop, on one of his lungs. At the time, Kendricks refused chemotherapy, reportedly because he didn't want to lose his hair. For nearly a decade after that initial diagnosis, things appeared to be under control. But in 1991, the cancer returned. Still determined to fight it on his own terms, Kendricks again declined chemotherapy. Instead, he opted for surgery to remove one of his lungs, hoping to stop the disease from spreading. His illness was widely believed to be the result of nearly 30 years of smoking. For a time, it looked like the surgery had worked. Eddie returned to the stage and began touring once again, this time with fellow former Temptations singers David Ruffin and Dennis Edwards. The trio performed under the name Ruffin, Kendricks, and Edwards and brought their classic Motown sound to fans across the country. Sadly, Eddie's health took a turn for the worse in the summer of 1992. He was hospitalized shortly after and never fully recovered. Eddie Kendricks died on October 5, 1992, at Baptist Medical Center, Princeton, in his hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. He was 52 years old. He is survived by his 3 children and is believed to have also left behind extended family, including siblings. At the time of his passing, Eddie Kendricks was estimated to have a net worth of around $5 million. However, the specifics of his will were never made public. While the exact details of who inherited his estate remain unknown, it's widely assumed that his 3 children were the primary beneficiaries, most likely dividing his legacy between them. Eddie Kendricks may be remembered for his angelic falsetto and timeless hits with the Temptations, but behind the music was a personal life filled with romance, chaos, and more than a few scandals. From fellow Motown legends to unexpected flings, his love life was as unpredictable as his vocal runs. But through all the highs and heartbreaks, one thing's certain: Eddie lived passionately, both on stage and off. Which of these messy affairs surprised you the most? Do you think his personal life overshadowed his legacy, or only made him more fascinating? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the untold stories behind your favorite music legends.